Hello, this is Joseph Carlson, and this is episode 155 of Gaming with Grief, and I'm calling this episode Happy Birthday, Ben. But I want to remind you guys that this podcast will hit my website, www.gamingwithgrief.com, Monday morning at 7 a.m. Please go there, let me know what you think. You can leave a comment below the show, or you can go to gwgpodfellows@gmail.com, write me an email, let me know what you think of the show. If there's a game or something you want me to review, you can leave it there. Or you can subscribe to the podcast on either Apple iTunes or the Google Play Store, or you can go to Spotify and go there and, subscribe to the podcast there. I've also got an announcement. I'm slowly putting the audio for the podcast on YouTube. So if that's your preferred way to listen to a podcast, I'm doing it there. I'm only doing from episode 100 because I think those episodes are better. If someone wants to listen to the old episodes, you can just subscribe to the podcast feed. Or, if I get enough comments on YouTube, I might put them up. But for right now, I'm starting at episode 100 and moving forward. It's a slow process, so hopefully in the next few weeks, I'll get caught up. And it'll just be a one-for-one when this episode hits the, the Apple iTunes store or the podcast thing of your choice. It'll also be on YouTube. So, there's it. So, this is just me, like we said last episode, kind of rememorializing my friend Ben. He passed away in April of 2019. I had his obituary up. He passed away actually on March 8th. On 2019, he had glioblastoma. But what happened was I tried to memorialize him with some relatives and, his brother, and my audio equipment wasn't good. And it was just him and I. But, it's Ben's birthday. My wife and I have been thinking about Ben a lot. Obviously, his brother has been thinking about him. And I mentioned it to some other friends of ours that knew Ben really well. And they said, we'd love to come on and talk about Ben. So this is just us. There's four of us here. Avin, who you may recognize from the Grief of Politics. He was friends with Ben. And then my friend Martin, he's been on a few times. We did the Dark Alliance review. He also role-played with me. We did a D&D session on the podcast because I said, hey, that's what I feel is therapy. But this really is Gaming with Grief. Ben loved video games. You can go back and listen to the episode I have on Breath of the Wild. Ben and I review it. So, do that. But this is us just talking about Ben and kind of memorializing him, where hopefully all of you guys can hear this stuff. And, happy birthday, Ben. His birthday is actually on May 7th. So this will go up, a day after his birthday. So we just wanted to record this on his birthday to kind of memorialize him. So enjoy the chat, everybody. So I just want to start out by saying, happy birthday, Ben. I know he's not with us, but
happy birthday, Ben.
Yeah,
happy birthday, Benny.
Today's the day, man. Today's the day. So, like I said, in the last podcast when we did this, my audio sucked. I had Joseph Todd on, and I couldn't even really hear him. I know Martin listened to the podcast and was like, I can't really hear him. So I have a better recording setup. So I figured we could do it again, but with more people and better recording. So... man.
Well, that audio did suck, but I will say that when you put you and Ben's voice in there on that podcast you guys used to have, man, it sounded really good. So I like that part.
Yeah, I did that for the Breath of the Wild re-review. I actually went back and finished the game because at the time it was early impressions, and then I realized I had an episode with just Ben and I talking about it, and I think I said it before, but I didn't realize I could actually edit the audio. But at the end of the conversation, we talk about the hit Netflix series Iron Fist. And I just let it go because I was just listening to Ben's voice instead of editing it out. And then at the end, I looked at the audio track, was like, wait, this is in GarageBand. I could have cut all this down, but it was, I don't know. It was basically after I was done posting it and stuff, and I was just like, well, it is what it is. I didn't, I know Martin was like, man, just to hear his voice again. And I was like, yeah. He wasn't, sick or anything. And he kept making fun of me in the interview because Breath of the Wild had just come out, and I gave him the Switch to try out so we can do impressions on our podcast. And I took it back within 2 days because I wanted to play it so bad. He was like, well, Joe, I'd really love to give my impressions, but I literally had it for 48 hours, and I slept through some of that time. And so I can't really tell you about the game because you took it back. And I was like, well, I just got it, and it's new, and I want it, so give it back. It's mine. So...
I will say that's
Uh-oh.
that you would do to Avin. Like, give it to Avin, and Avin has like 24 hours. And you're like, what's your impression? And Avin would be like, of what? You gave it to me like 24 hours ago. And
Yeah.
I played like 2 hours.
Yeah, and I had to sleep for some of that time, Joe, so I didn't really have a lot of time to do impressions, but
Sleep, spend time with my wife, eat.
yeah, I actually spend time with my loved ones and like, yeah, have a life, yeah.
Put your videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Stuff like that. Yeah. Well, the only thing I wanted to say is every time we go to Karina's now, Carla and I miss Ben. Every time we get sweets, because Carla, what did you say the other day? You said you got something and you...
Oh, I was at Karina's and I got like a muffin or something, and I was like, Ben would like that, and that, and that, and that.
Yeah, and then...
then we would have hour-long conversations about dessert.
Yeah. And I
don't know why.
And I would just walk away, because it's like, I want dinner. So I was also selfish whenever I went over to Ben's. Yeah. And I know it's his birthday, and we probably would have been to Karina's or something, you know, so kind of sucks.
Well, today would have been his 50th birthday.
Yeah, I was trying to do the math,
So
and I'm
it
bad at
would have been a
math.
big ass blowout.
Oh, yeah. We would have set him up with so much cake.
He would have got another cake, I think. We'd been like, oh, you got done with the first cake? We have a second cake for you. Like,
And he would have set it up for this big elaborate birthday that he would have invited people over to cook for.
and
That's
then,
what he would have set
exactly.
it up for.
and then
Right.
he would have had games and stuff set up, you know, which was always fun to do games over there. I remember one time we went over there, he had like 4 tables of miniature games going and everything, and that was pretty cool because you could like go between the tables. Like our friend Jeff was running one, he was running one, and then I invited some friends over, and everybody was taking photos. Well, actually, I think there was 3 tables, but I mean, it was a lot going on. And then if you died, you got sent to one of the other tables, which happened to me. I always had a bad luck in the X-Wing miniature games of flying my craft off the board. So that was always my... Avin's just laughing because he knows how strategy games that I work, where he's like, oh, you don't know how to use a measuring stick, you say. It's going to kill your ship, you say. Yeah.
You haven't looked more than half a move ahead, you say.
Yeah. Oh, you just thought of... Yeah, and then I remember one time we were playing at Ben's with another friend of ours, Todd, and not only did I fly my ship off, but right before I did, I sent like a remote mine to detonate, and I deployed it and then flew off the board, and then Todd was we were doing partners, and he flew into it. So not only did I kill myself, but I did detrimental damage to my partner's ship, and Ben was laughing the whole time, like, man, with friends like you know, like, I'm glad I didn't pick to be on your team. And Todd was like, are you kidding? Like, I have like 2 whole points left, and I'm like, well, that was my contribution. And yeah, Ben just thought it was funny. So,
Well, I do feel like that there also would be a time to mention that it's space. Like if I was playing, I think I've played miniatures with you guys a few times, and it just seems like that would be something that I would do, is fly off the side, and Ben would be giving me crap about it, right? And then followed up by it's space. There is no falling.
yeah,
off
can't
the
you?
side.
Yeah, and then also, can't you fly up around the mine? Like, if you see the mine, it's not like in space, it's like a road that you can only go in a straight line. You know, like, oh, I gotta get towards the mine, it's right in front of me. It's like, you have space around you. Like, I don't know. I remember when we did play miniatures together, Ben and I would have competitions when we found out, you know, when he'd put the Falcon on the board, like, each of us would try to kill the other person that had the Millennium Falcon, because it was a pretty cool ship, and I was keeping pace with him, but then he beat me a bunch because he figured out that whoever piloted it had different abilities. And then he collected so many of those minis that I kept asking him, are we going to keep playing this? And he said, I got to stop, man. And he just pointed behind him, and he had all the boards, and he had these fishing tackle boxes with all these things. And I go, are you sure? And he goes, yeah. And then the Armada came out, so they were like bigatures, you know, of like, and he goes, oh, I might get a couple of those. And I was like, Ben, I thought you said you had to stop. And he goes, but they're so nice. So he got like 2 or 3 of them. It was like, man.
Down in the basement, he had a whole shelf.
Yeah.
There you go.
It was one of those ones that you put together,
Oh, right.
and that whole thing was completely full of miniatures. Nothing but miniatures.
Yeah, and I remember asking him about his Warhammer miniatures as well, which I never saw him play. I just saw them, in the corner on that table or, on that shelf. And I said, how much have you spent over the years? Because I didn't know anything about Warhammer. I knew those miniatures were expensive. But I said, how much over the years have you spent on those miniatures? And I remember him looking back, seeing the stack, and he goes, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about how much I spent on it.
Well, when Warhammer first came out, he went out and he bought like every set of them just about, and then he would start working on trying to like paint them and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah, it was. That was one thing that I could never get into, was the whole miniature thing. But like, yeah, that was all him. If he saw something that piqued his interest just a little bit, he bought them.
Yeah, he kickstarted a bunch of
Warhammer. I just remember him telling stories about him and Jeff playing like over and over again. He loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then
he had I tried to play his Jiminy Cricket because he'd get on Kickstarter like so much, and he goes, "Oh, hey, I bought another game off Kickstarter."
Oh, I know. He told me.
And then he just kept buying more.
Oh, I did the 3-time stretch goal on the Bloodborne game. I'm like, Ben, you've never played Bloodborne or like the Dark Souls. Like, I get if you're a fan, you want all that stuff. And he's like, well, yeah. He's like, I just, it looked really cool, and the next miniatures are gonna come, and I gotta sit down and learn it. But I got another one coming in a week, and you're like, I mean, Ben, I know we all come over and like to play games, but like, we need to finish one game before we start another one, And he even said that too. I remember him talking about his budget at one time where he goes, I got to really consider that a Kickstarter part of my budget. And I was like, what are you doing, man? He's like, oh yeah, like I got a budget program, and like,
he loved Kickstarter, man.
Yeah.
Like, the things you love, you budget for. If he knows he's going to spend money, he puts it in the budget.
That's true, and to be honest, Kickstarter is probably the best time to do it because everything's cheap. Because once it hits the market, it usually gets more expensive. Like if you Kickstart, you usually get some rewards when you back it. But man, all of the stuff that he had that came, I was like, yeah, that's cool, but like, when are we gonna do all this? It's like, we got to play one of these games, Ben. Like,
what was the collectible card game that for contributing they actually made a card of him?
There was like it was like a nanny. Was that like the nanny one where it was like all the evil genius nanny whatever, and then he backed it at a level, so they made a card of him. Yeah.
Like a little evil baby Ben.
Yeah. Did you find that Todsip in his stuff? I mean, he had a lot of miniature stuff. I would like to see that card.
I've seen it. He showed it to me. I mean, I don't have it. It's at the house. Well, I guess it's at the house.
Did it have good stats at least? Because if they're going to put you in the game, they got to give you good stats. I mean, if it's just your game you're going to play with your friends,
Well, I didn't really know anything about the game. He just showed me the card, and I mean, it was a pretty cool card.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, it's cool that they would do that too. So
it was a perfect representation of Ben's little evil stare.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a good stare.
He did all the time. But I was like, don't ever do that again, please. And then he's like, oh, you said you want me to do it again? I said, no, please don't. Just let him know.
Whatever happened to all this games and miniatures and all of that stuff?
Is that still there at the house?
I'm assuming it's still with Debbie.
I guess.
Do you think maybe that if we reached out to her and said, hey, we'd like it sounds weird, right? But like we'd like a little piece of Ben. Do you think if she wouldn't necessarily give certain things to us, that maybe she'd let us buy some of it? Like, even if it's just like the Millennium Falcon, just the Millennium Falcon, you know what I mean? Do you think maybe she'd
I mean, it would be nice to have a couple things, because she gave me like some stuff that he was working on, but like, I think, and she's like, oh yeah, there's this old script you work on. Here's that. And she gave me like part of a miniature, like a section of it. She goes, Ben said you wanted this. And I was like, I don't know, because it was part of a miniature. So I don't know what it was. I was like, did I mention this like years ago? And she just put it in the box. But I would like to see, I mean, I don't know. There is some stuff I would like to see, what he had for miniatures and stuff. Because we went over there all the time to play, and even to take like some of those dice from that game that were really weird, the X-Wing game, the dice are really strange, like something like that to just.
We had something like a pirate game too that we were trying to play, and none of us knew how to play, and the rules of it were just.
Was that the Dread Pirate one that I brought over? It had like I brought that over, and it was fun. But I remember, I think it wasn't Ben. I think we had one of Ben's friends over, and he was cheating because you had to get to Dread Island where all the treasure was, and he just kept going over there, and we're like, there's got to be a rule. You can't just like steer the ship at the island and get all the treasure. And sure enough, it was like, okay, so give all that treasure back because you're cheating. And we had to like smack him down. Yeah, so.
But that was the type of games that we played. It's not like these easy shoots and ladders type things, right? There was these elaborate rules, and I remember just trying to figure out what Ben's telling me, and I'm like, I don't get it. I really don't.
Well, Munchkin was.
Do you have crayons that you can draw it?
Yeah, I know. Can you draw me a picture, literally?
I don't know if you remember this, Joe, but I think back in the day, it was a video game. So, like, you put the video in, VHS, this is old school.
Okay.
You put the VHS in, and it would play like a cut scene, and you had a board, and you would have to like listen to that and then go back to the board, and you would do whatever you had to do.
What?
And then once you were done, you would go back. Oh my God!
Well,
I remember playing those.
Well, there's stuff like that nowadays, but they use like the iPad. And what I like about some of those newer games, there's a Middle Earth one like that, and there was another one that they don't support anymore. But what it would do is it would not only give you flair on the iPad, like have a representation of your minis, but it would also save information on the board that you physically had to the iPad. So if you had to leave, like if you were playing Axis and Allies, it would basically take a photo of the board and save where all the minis were, and it would do the math on the iPad. So if you tried to attack somebody or whatever, it would keep all that saved. So, I mean, the VHS thing is old, but like we haven't really come that far. We just use iPads and apps now as opposed to watching a movie and then doing a turn and doing that, you know? So
and the graphics.
And the graphics are much better than like a dude in like cardboard armor going, have at thee, and like running up a hill, and you're like, I don't know what
this made it so good back then was like the horrible graphics on it.
Yeah, you're like, how they spent $7 on this. Like, they spent all the money on the board. One thing I will say, I always got not mad, but I got really depressed. Like I like playing games with Ben, but whenever he'd take out Twilight Imperium, like my heart would just sink. Because that's one of those games. I don't know if you've ever played Twilight Imperium, but
I've heard stories.
It's a big box with a lot of pieces. You're in space. There's politics. It's also a little bit of risk. You have to wait so many turns to do stuff, and it just is one of those things where Ben's like, "Come over and play Twilight Imperium," and I'm like, "Yeah, cool." And you get over there Saturday at like 10. He's like, yeah, we'll probably have to pick it up tomorrow. And you're like, what? Like, I mean, I was a single guy at the time, but I'm like, and then Jeff was over there, his friend, and he's very into min-maxing and all that. And I remember I got a card. You do like a politics card, like a special card. You pull one at the beginning, and then no matter what happens, you know, if this happens, then that happens. Well, it was like pretty much like, it was like steal people's money from their treasury or something. And I tried to play it on turn 2, and like, no. You have to wait for that to vest, and you have to do certain things, and you can't do this until you hit turn 10. And I was like, what? We're going to be here forever, you know? And it was... And then we went over there when the Armada came out for the X-Wings game, and I had this big ship, and they had mini ships, and they go, okay, Joe, to make this easy, because we play this a lot more than you have, we'll take all the mini ships, and then you'll take the big ship, and you have to defeat us. And I go, really? And I kept looking at my armor and looking at the ships and looking at the cards. And I just went for the ramming speed philosophy, which was I was just going to ram into their ships. And they had to stop like 4 turns in and go, are you just trying to ram us? And I said, uh-huh. And they go, well, you would take hull damage. And I go, well, yeah, for like 4 turns, but you guys forgot. And this one's dead, so we'll take hull damage now, right? And they go, you're literally just careening into all of us. And I go, uh-huh. And they got so, they were like, it's like you're not even trying. And I was like, I mean, I'm kind of trying, but like, this is really frustrating. Like, this game's going to take 2 days to finish. So, I don't know if I want to do this, guys, to be honest.
That was like playing Risk, when all of us would get together and we'd play like Risk. Or, you know, like Axis and Allies and stuff.
Well, they had like themed Risk too, like Risk 2049 and Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings Risk and all that
And
stuff.
you're just sitting on there playing, and like he was so bad about that. He was the biggest manipulator of people. He'd be like, "Come on, let's work
Ben?
together. We'll take them out." Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you'd be like,
Oh,
"No,
don't
I
attack
don't
me!"
think so."
He'd always say that. Why are you?
No,
he,
let's do this.
he was the
And then
master
as
deflector,
you
too.
team up with him, he destroyed you.
Yeah. Well, no, he's a master deflector. He's like, why are you coming after me? They're more of a threat. And then you'd be weak from attacking somebody. He's like, hello, old friend. And you're like, why? What? Why? You're stabbing me in the back. Why are you doing this?
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, I guess that is a strategy, breaking an
That was always
alliance.
his strategy, to act like he was the good guy that was there, and then just turn around and stab you right in the back.
Oh, Ben.
Have that grin on
But
his face.
But see,
Yeah.
if you after a while you learn his tricks.
Yeah, you're like, hey, Ben, I'm onto you. Or I was onto him when he'd say, like, if you're playing a new game and he's teaching you the rules and he's like, well, you know what you could do? And I'd be like, so you mean the opposite of what you just told me to do? Because I know what you're doing. Like, you're trying to make it so I will be incredibly weak. I know how you work, Ben.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, no. Oh, my God.
Oh,
No. Oh,
He didn't really do a lot of
Wasn't talking
sports
about there he
or
is.
that, but he was so competitive.
Yeah, he was quietly competitive because we had like Jeff, the other friends, Jeremy years ago. Those people were very competitive, and you could see it as soon as a board came out. Ben would like do the Homer Simpson meme of shrinking back into the shrubs, and like just the wheels would start to turn on what he was doing, and then he would attack later, when one of those people were down or whatever. So.
Oh yeah.
I could see him doing something like that. But the thing that catches my eye is, when you were like onto him, or there was like a certain punchline or something that he didn't expect you to say, and you said it, and he would start his laugh. Remember his laugh?
Yeah.
But it wasn't his laugh that I'm talking about. It was, as he started getting the Grinch laugh, and he's laughing, so it's not like it's sinister. But he would get into that laugh where his mouth went like this, and then his eyes would come up like this, and he's like,
Well, he had like the wind up.
But he was laughing.
Mhm.
He was genuinely laughing. He wasn't trying to get one over on you. He thought it was so funny that Grinch smile and his eyebrows would go up at angle. It was.
He had a
I
wind.
could just see that when you guys were telling me that. I could see that.
He had the wind up to his laugh, like a smile wind up, where you're like, oh, here it comes. Like you'd see it on his face. Like, yeah. Yeah, I do miss having dinners over there. We reached out to Debbie to do that, and I know she said years ago she was going to try to have people over for dinner, but she hasn't really reached out. So, yeah, that kind of sucks. I do miss going over there to just have like his crab boil. I do like the fact that Todd Siff called out Arish because Arish was like, I can cook anything, and Todd was over there. It's like, no, you can't. he goes, no, you can't.
Who, me?
Yeah, you called out Arish because Arish all the time is like, I can cook this. Like Ben would be doing something like a crab boil or something, or a low country boil. Arish's like, I could do this.
That was Dad that always cooked those.
Well, there was other stuff too that he'd be cooking. He's like, well, I could do Chinese food, I could do Italian, and then you're like, no, you can't. No, you can't.
I always gave Dad crap about that because Ben and Dad always loved cooking. And Dad would be like, I can cook anything better. I'm like, no, you can't, Dad.
I mean, I'm thankful to be
I'm like,
fed,
you
and the
cook
food is
good,
yeah.
but
You can't do Italian food.
So I will say another thing is that being over there in Arish, which I love that name, such a great name, and I've heard the stories about him living in Germany and that he speaks German, and the sense of them being some sort of Bavarian, and the Union. And the Union.
The mail carrier union?
Joe and Ben would do this to me when I would go over there and Arish was over there. He'd be like, oh, Martin was in the Union. And then they would just me, and then they would just disappear. And he would me in the kitchen, and he would tell me about the Union. Oh, you've been to Germany. Martin's been to Germany. And I'm like, I've heard this story.
Mm-hmm.
And he would just go on.
Martin.
Yeah.
They did that to everybody. We all did that. Oh, you have. Oh yeah, go.
So
Dad.
So I gotta tell you, one time Martin.
Happens to me every time, though. Every time. It wasn't like once or twice. It was like every time Eric was over there, and I would come over, and it was just like, Germany. Martin's been to Germany. Oh, you unions? Let's talk. And I'm like, heard this story, man. I don't want to do this.
Sit over there, babe.
Think.
Well,
And just heard all of Dad's stories.
yeah. Well, we did it on purpose where
So we go, oh hey.
Yeah. Yeah, we wanted someone else to hear them again and again and again. So there's two stories of that, Martin. One time was, we did do that to you, you're right. But we were in the kitchen getting food, and you were in the dining room or whatever talking to Arish, and I was like, and Debbie and I think Tassif and Ben were in the kitchen, and I go, did you guys know that Arish is German? And everybody started laughing, and then I looked up at you, Martin, and you were like doing the nod, like yeah, oh yeah, like trying to. And I was like, that poor bastard, like he's stuck over there, and we're in here getting food. And then the other time was, the funny story was, Arish was doing that again in April. You know, Ben's stepdaughter was over, and at the time her husband was in the military, and they lived in Germany for a while, and she was in the kitchen getting food, similar scenario, and I think Martin was in the kitchen listening to Arish. And April goes, most of what he's saying is old. Like, because I just was there. I was just there 6 months ago. He's wrong. And I was just laughing because I was like, poor Martin. I think one of those times I actually did bring you food, Martin, because I did feel bad that you were stuck over there listening to Arish. And I was like, do you want a muffin? Here's your muffin. Like, I brought you something because I was like, I don't want you to be stuck over here alone.
But there's a good thing, because it wasn't like there was a shortage of food. Like everybody was going to get food.
Yeah.
And Martin wasn't going to get food, or somebody wasn't going to get food.
Oh yeah, I had to hear the story, and now you're late. There's no ribs.
Food was cold.
It was still there, though. It was still there.
It was still there. It was still great, cold as it was hot.
I'm sure you guys have heard the story, but there was actually one time I actually saw Ben mad, and it was my fault, because it was like I had just started dating Carla, and I was like, you know what? Let's bring Ben some food. And Carla goes, all right. So we went to H&L, but I went to the deli.
Oh my god.
And we bought like a meal to prepare. And then I brought it over to Ben and go, hey man, Carla and I will be over tonight. And the look on his face where he got mad, but like Todd said, he loved cooking. So then he was like, all right, I guess I could do like a rub or something, and then I'll put this in the oven. And Carla's like, are you sure he's not going to be mad? I'm like, he'll be fine. He'll be fine. And then we left and then came back in the evening to get dinner. And then I asked him like a year later, I was like, hey, honestly, like that was kind of shitty. Like, how mad were you? And he's like, I mean, at first really mad, but then my brain, like the wheels started to turn of like, well, I could do like a olive something with the potatoes, and I could grill the whatever. And he goes, I got to eat it too. It wasn't like you you came over, took everything with you, and then left. Like we all sat down and had dinner. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, I wasn't. It was like I was mad at first, but then after that,
we were at the butcher counter, and you were like, that looks good. And I was like, wait, are we taking this to him to make? And he goes, yeah. And I'm like, he's gonna be mad, right? You're like, nah. And I'm like, okay.
You know what I envisioned? This is what I envisioned. You know the part in Lord of the Rings where Gollum goes over and they've got the conies, and he's just like talking about how you eat it raw and that sort of thing. And he's like, you don't do that to conies. And he goes into finding herbs and stuff like that. That's Joe. Joe Gollum is like, how about we just boil it? Let's just boil it and then just eat it.
That's right.
Like, you don't boil chicken. Right?
You don't like boiled asparagus, Martin? Come on, it's so good.
It's so disgusting.
It's so good. You just run the water.
I could smell urine when you talk about boiling asparagus.
That's what my mother did. She had one of those metal tins that folded up, so she just put.
You get your cooking skills from.
She just put the. I watch a lot of cooking shows now with Carla though, so I've been able.
Because I'm addicted to them.
She's addicted to all the cooking shows, so I'm like, oh, salt. Right.
Who does the cooking, Carla? Honestly, who does? I see Joe boiling hamburgers.
I do a lot of it.
Hamburger?
It's freshly boiled. I strained all the water off it if you want. Yeah. No,
I'm
I'm.
haggis raw before eating that.
Oh, are you
darn.
supposed to cook this? Yeah. No, that was one thing. Ben would call though and be like, "Hey, I'm trying something new. You
Yep.
know, like
Yep.
come on over." We're like,
I'm
"All
on
right,
my
we'll be
way
over there,"
over
you
right
know, or
now.
whatever. So,
Yeah.
and that was nice when Arish came to live with him, where he said that, like, I gotta, you know, he was smoking brisket and all that stuff, and he's like, I gotta make my keep, you know, I gotta at least cook. So I'm like, yeah, I guess, like, you need to mow the lawn and stuff. And Ben's like, yeah, he's doing brisket. I'm like, sweet, that's great, you know. So it was always nice to know you could go over there and just get basically a free meal, I guess. But we were invited. I want to make that clear.
And
I think that
if
was
you
one of
ever
the
needed
sad
fish,
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, fish was good.
well,
Hey, fish.
yeah, because I used to catch all the salmon and the trout and everything, and we would have tons of salmon and trout and rock bass and lean cod, all that. God,
Oh
If
yeah.
it
know,
wasn't
that's
for Ben, you would have no way of cooking it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but wasn't for him, he wouldn't be able to do it.
yeah, I can cook it just fine, but I don't really eat that much fish.
You
Oh.
boil it.
No?
No, he wouldn't boil the
Don't
fish.
do that. Yeah.
That seems like that's like a medieval thing to like kill the rats. Like just boil it. Like just
You boiled fish heads.
yeah. Ugh. Oh.
Yum yum. Throw some celery in there.
Tasty.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
All right.
No
Well,
celery.
good talking to you guys.
I gotta go. Once we start talking about the boiled fish heads, I gotta
I'm gonna
leave.
go in the bathroom and vomit.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
Think about oysters and boiled fish.
Oh, come
Slathered in
on.
mayonnaise. Mm,
Oh, I love oysters.
Yeah.
mayonnaise and boiled fish heads.
No, we're
that's
good.
that's pretty nasty.
How dare you
Yeah.
disrespect Ben's legacy by talking about boiled fish heads?
Where's
and-
Ben? I have an idea of food now. And I
He
wanna
probably
be-
could have been like, yeah, I could do something with that. Like, look at him and be like, I'll do something with it. Like, I'll figure something
Yeah, some
out.
parsley, it probably wouldn't be that bad.
Yeah, parsley. Well, I mean, I just want to make this really quick, and I just wanted to talk about Ben a little bit because I've missed him. Obviously, it's his birthday today. So, thanks, guys, for joining me. Do you guys want to say anything else before we leave, before we sign off?
May
I have a
the
real
force
quick story.
be with you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Revenge of the Sith, buddy.
What did you want to say,
Bible
Martin?
verse. So, there's a quick story, and I know I've told this story before, and it just, on his birthday, it always seems to come to me because I think it's funny. We were leaving Joe's one night, and Ben and I were talking about martial arts as we do. And Ben looked at me and he goes, "You know what? I've always wanted to fight you." I don't know if you've ever heard anybody say that they've always wanted to fight you. It's a first for me.
Like in a cordial way of like, what do you want to eat? Oh, and I'd like to fight you. Like those do not like, let's do this like out of a bar or something, like a drunken whatever.
Wow.
Doesn't it sound like you would do something in the medieval days where you'd come up and like slam like an ale on it and be like, "It's on," and you're like, "Guzzle, let's go." But I don't know about you guys, but have you ever had anybody come up to you and go, "I've always wanted to fight
I'm
you"?
gonna
The
say
first
no.
one.
What did you tell him after he said that? Like,
Well, the only thing that you can do is like, I guess if that's what you want to do.
are we doing that now? Because I gotta go home soon. But if you want to schedule this for like a Wednesday at 7:00, I can be back or whatever. I
I'm
can
wearing
come back.
flip-flops, so that wouldn't work for me.
I know. I'd go to kick you and the flip flop would fly out.
For some reason, like around this time, I always think about that story, and you always wonder what the outcome would be. But at the same time, you're like, I'm not gonna fight a friend, man. To be honest with you, it's just out of the blue. It's just out of like left field. We're like martial arts, this type of move, and blah blah blah. I've always wanted to fight you, and you're like, what?
Well, I mean, my martial arts story with Ben was he had to get a belt in Taekwondo or something years ago. And he's like, hey, I got to do these, like these grabs and like these wrist locks and stuff. And I got to practice.
Oh.
And I was dumb. And I was like, well, if you're gentle, I mean, sure, if you're just practicing, you wouldn't bend someone's hand back. You just do it a little bit. No. Ben was going for the belt. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
So I was in the yard like, I think you got it. I think you got this one. Because he was doing wrist locks and everything. And I was like, you're good. I think. He's like, oh, okay, well, I'm just, I just want to get that belt. And I'm like, oh, man, that hurt. I need ice. Like, that was not,
Oh,
yeah.
that's like doing Taekwondo with Ben. Like, since, I don't know why, I wasn't even one of the bigger guys in the school. But they were always like, "Hey, you hold the boards and stuff for Ben."
Oh no.
And I'm like, "Yeah, really?" So I would always end up holding the boards for him, and I swear to God, half the time he would kick me in the balls.
And the board's up?
The board up
Yeah.
here,
The board
and
was.
he kicked down.
You're like, Ben, did you not see the board?
Oh, he saw the board.
And then if you held it down, he'd kick you in the head, something like that. Like, you're like, fine, if you're going to kick me in the balls.
Like he was like, "Oh, well, I got to do a running jump side kick over this obstacle," and I literally watched him as he was kicking in midair. He sticks his leg out, then he pulls it back, then he sticks it back out again, but it's pointing down. And I'm like, "Oh, here we go." And it was one of the days that I didn't put my cup on.
Oh.
Come on.
It was not a fun day.
Yeah. You're like, you owe me so much. Like, on the ground.
Man, well,
What if,
we've fought ever since we were kids. I mean, wrestling
as
and
you do.
everything was just always what we did.
Yeah.
and the groin kick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, that wasn't even the worst of it because Ben always had these jagged damn toenails.
Oh, okay.
And we would wrestle, and he'd go to try to get, like, his legs around me or something. And it happened more than once. One time he cut my nose.
Ah.
Ooh.
One time he like got my arms and stuff. Like he was, you know, it was just always. I look at him, I'm like, bro, seriously, go cut your toe. That's ridiculous.
Carla or Avin, do you guys have a story about
No,
that?
I just remember we would have just conversations where we saw something and it looked kind of pervy and we were both like, hee hee hee. And then we look over at Joe and Joe's just off somewhere else and I'm like, he didn't get it. Whenever.
Like, I just wouldn't see what they
Or
were.
like maybe he was just ignoring us and I'm like, he's just blocking us out. He's like, yeah, probably.
Well, you know Ben and Joe's relationship.
Yeah,
Ben's
I know.
not ignoring Joe.
I remember
He's
Ben.
playing
On
hockey
that
games.
topic, if you want a story from me, like I remember Joe's bachelor party
Oh, yeah.
with Ben
Yeah.
and the spoon.
Oh, yeah. I have that
That was
photo
great.
still on the.
That
with,
photo's
with like
great,
photos of
yeah.
my dad and everything. That's one of the photos of Ben I have of him spooning me, holding a spoon. Because I had one of those kitschy, like deco things where it was like a fork and a spoon on the wall, and
Yep,
Ben took
yep.
that off the wall, and then we got a photo of that. And he said that morning, really quickly, he said that morning I woke up, because obviously it was my bachelor party and I drank, but I just went upstairs and fell asleep. And he goes, I don't think there was a room left, or Ben just wanted to sleep in the same room as I did. And he goes, I woke up early and you look kind of cute when you sleep. And I go, Ben, if anybody else said that, I would be mad.
Exactly.
But like,
Right?
since you said it, it's all right. He goes, I look so cute. And I was like, how, because I knew I vomited. I was like, how bad was it? He goes, just a little drop on the floor. I'm like, I must have cleaned it up after. I was so conscious about drinking, it just cleaned up all my vomit. And then, yeah. So.
Well, with
Oh
that,
my
to put it in context, it was a 4-foot spoon. It wasn't just a spoon.
No, it was a big spoon.
4-foot
Yeah.
spoon that
Yeah.
we wedged between you and Ben because you guys were spooning.
Yeah.
So the reason why Ben slept in your room is they can go, who's going to Joe? And I was like, I'll do it. And Ben was like, I'll do it because Ben didn't drink, right?
Yeah.
And so Ben was like, you were drinking, you may or may not wake up, and I'll take care of it. So that's the reason why Ben was in the room, is because he didn't drink and he was taking care of you.
I know I was so messed up. Somebody came in to ask if I wanted to play cards, and I was like, oh, I'll do it. And they're like,
Cards
you know
Against
what?
Humanity, actually.
What?
It was Cards Against Humanity.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we were playing.
Well, they woke me up, and then they realized how drunk I was because I tried to wake up, and they go, just go back to bed. I just fell back asleep, and then they just went and go play Cards Against Humanity. But what were you saying,
So
Evan?
no, go ahead.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
I mean, yeah, that's just one of the many stories, right? But that one stands out because you're talking about the relationship. I mean, how many times did we joke about Carla was going to have to get permission from Ben and was going to
Yeah.
have to share Joe with him?
Yeah.
Which is pretty much what we were doing.
So, I'm sure I told you guys this story, but like, first off, I went over to ask Carla's parents, can I marry your daughter? So Ben was obviously with me, right? Because whatever, he was there. And first off, I said, yeah, I'm going to do this. And Ben goes, oh, I'm so happy for you and stuff. And then the second question was, when did you tell Martin? And I was like 2 days ago? He goes, okay, I'm number 2. Okay. So then we went in. This was at the doorstep of Carla's folks. So then we went in, and I told Ben, this is why I'm here. I'm going to ask her parents if I can marry her. This is why we're here, right? And he goes, okay. So he goes in, and of course, Carla's mom, hey, Ben, how you been doing? 25 minutes. 20, and I'm like sitting there just like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like you want to ask, and I literally pulled the line from The Simpsons. I go, listen, shut up for a minute. I said, can I marry your daughter? And then Judy started to cry, and then Ben just started to laugh, and I was like, Jesus, Ben. Like, really? You can, let me ask it first, and you guys could have caught up. I know you haven't seen him in a while, but it was so funny. I literally, interrupted everybody and go, listen, shut up for a minute. Like, I have to do this thing. And, that was, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if she goes, does it come with Ben?
Yeah, no, Ben still can come, right? He can still come over.
Yeah.
Ben can still come over.
Yeah. If it doesn't come with Ben, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it comes with Carla's essentially marrying Ben.
Well, he said that too. He said, well, when am I going to meet Carla? And then a couple days later, he goes, she's all right. And I was like, okay, I guess.
Was that when I met him at the film festival?
I think so. She met him at the film festival, whatever. And he's like, all right, she's okay. She's okay. I think because he told her a perfect joke and she left. So he's like, oh, she's all right.
I always remember first times we all went out together. We went to a movie down on Reston.
Yeah.
And you hop out of the car, and me and Ben.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think Todd and
no, you had met Carla before.
And no, I had met her, but this was one of the first times we had went out.
Oh yeah.
We had all went out together, and we're sitting there, and we're like, "Where's Carla at?" You're like, "Oh, she's parking the car." And we look out and we see Carla trying to parallel park.
Oh man, I am so bad at parallel parking.
It was very sad.
It was sad.
And we're just sitting there and we're like, Joe.
Yeah.
Did you leave her there?
Yeah. She had it. She had it. What are you guys talking about? She had it.
She's got it.
She just gave me the side eye for all the audio listeners. She just gave me the side eye. She's like, apparently she did not have it.
And when I came in, Ben was like, I was going to come out there.
I know. And
I was like, thank you for defending me. Joe just left me there.
She had it, guys.
Oh
she totally had it. She totally had it.
She totally did not have it.
I did not. No, I did not have it, and it was embarrassing. I was sweating, I think. I was like, freaking.
I know. It was almost like the movie was on a timer that I had to tuck and roll and leave the car. Save yourself. I'm going to go watch Suicide Squad or whatever it was. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guys,
do you remember what movie it was?
It was Suicide Squad, I think, something like that.
Okay,
no, it wasn't Suicide Squad.
It was. Well, it was not. I don't remember. I don't think we ever saw a good movie at Rustin. It wasn't. The company was great, but I don't remember leaving a movie at Rustin going, "Man, that was the best movie ever." It was like, "Oh, probably shouldn't have saw that." I don't know. I don't remember that one that much. So
one more time, just real quick, on the whole Joe's bachelor party. Don't ever get to reminisce this with Avin. But we were drinking. I don't know if you guys remember that whole thing. Is that there was zero food at all.
Yeah.
All alcohol. So specifically, we all went outside. Dane and I were the first one out there. Cold water in the hot tub.
Yep.
It's like a 6-person hot tub. We fit 8-9 guys in this thing. It's freezing. Oh. Avin's like, you realize it's heated, right? And we're like, maybe. So we couldn't get the hot tub turned on. Avin, do you remember this? You spent I don't know, 45 minutes, an hour trying to get this hot tub to turn on, turn on, and you helped us stay warm in that time because you were able to figure out putting the hot tub on. So that was a really good memory that I have when we were at Joe's bachelor party and Avin came and stayed.
Yeah, and then Martin's family member had his phone in his swim trunks for 40 minutes in the hot tub, and then tried to take it out and said, "Well, maybe I could put it in some rice." And Avin, I thought, was going to pass out from laughter Because he was like, yeah, maybe I'll I mean, it was boiling in like the hot water of the sauna for like at least 40 minutes. And he's like, maybe I could save it. It was like, what? Yeah, well, guys and ladies, thank you guys so much. I just wanted to do this. And, happy birthday, Ben.
Happy
I hope
birthday,
he is,
Ben.
Happy birthday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, bro.
Yeah. So that was it. That was all of us sitting down to talk about Ben. This will come out Sunday, the day after his birthday. And I just want to say, Ben, I miss you, buddy. And it sucks you didn't make it to 50, but I think about you all the time. So I love you, man. Anyway, I'm not going to do the outro again this week. Everybody be safe, be kind to each other, and I will talk to you again next week. Bye.